Hi, welcome to the 10-Minute Parent. My name is Pastor Don Boldt. I'll be your teacher for the next 5 or 10 minutes as we take a look at what the Bible says about how to raise your children for Him. And today I want to talk a little bit about discipline and help you to get a grasp of some of these things. Well, one is to realize that probably the most important part of what you're doing in discipline is not punishment. All right. A lot of times you think punishment. But in terms of justice. And justice is an important thing in your house, and there are times when you do have to punish your children for things that they've done. And there are other times where, no, it's not so much they need to be punished for what they're doing, but they really do need to be kept on the right path. They need to be kept obeying me, keep doing the right things and that sort of thing. And I'm constantly having to kind of direct them back to the path. The reason you see me swinging my hands this way is because I'm picturing watching, and I've watched this in many different countries, where you'll see somebody directing, a cow or sheep, well, not so much a sheep, cows, goats, ducks, geese, and the person who's driving them down the road has a little stick in their hand, right? And what they're doing, and the words in the Bible, fit this, okay, is you're chastising. You're just giving them a little bit of pain to kind of keep them in line, keep them on the path that you're trying to keep them on. So most of what we're doing really is more in the area of chastisement. Punishment, actually rendering justice for some ill deed done, is going to be probably less common. And if you really look at it, the times when you really feel like God is putting you in a place, you really have to punish them for what they did, probably not as often as just the constant little chastising. In fact, if you aren't doing the constant chastising, you're probably going to do more punishment, okay, because they're wandering off the path, getting into big trouble, and you're wondering why. Well, you need to become probably more watchful at keeping them where they're supposed to be doing, where they're supposed to be and doing what they're supposed to be doing. But there's three things that are important, whether it's punishment, chastisement, whatever it is that you're doing. There's three things that are very important, okay? And I'm going to put them on the screen later, so I'm going to point to them. Quick, sure, and appropriate, right? Quick, sure, and appropriate. Three very important parts of any time that you're doing something like this. By quick, it's got to be timely, all right? I know there are times that I'll be working with parents, and their tendency is to say, well, their child did something wrong. 3 hours later, they're going to do something about it. All right, well, you did that. Wait till your father gets home. Well, it's 5 hours later. And that there's this gap between what happened and, the consequences of what happened. Sometimes with an older child, that may be a good thing. With younger children, though, it doesn't work very, very well at all. Because, first of all, they have the experience of getting away with it. You might say, how does that happen? Well, because the consequences didn't come right away. So they get to live this, what seems to them a long time. 4 or 5 hours to a young child is forever, just so you know. All right, and so they first of all have this experience of getting away with it for a long period of time. They have the opportunity to actually forget they did it. All right, you think, how could they forget they did that? They're a child. Like, you're an adult, you were offended, you're not going to forget. They're a child, they're forgetful, they have short memories, and quite frankly, they may not yet have really grasped the seriousness of what they did wrong. All right, so they have this experience, first of all, getting away with it for 4 or 5 hours. Then all of a sudden, here comes, some consequence, and it's like, I'm having a hard time remembering exactly what I did wrong, or maybe I remember it, but it just seems so long ago, and now all of a sudden I'm having to suffer for it. All right, that lack of timeliness, what happened was you missed the learning opportunity. All right, look at Proverbs. Okay, first of all, it says that rebellion that you're seeing in your child, that resistance to your authority, is a little thing called foolishness. And Proverbs tells us that it's bound up in their heart. Okay, it's not something easy for them to get rid of. You remember, being a child, it wasn't easy to become obedient to your parents and all the things that they're expecting of you. And so there's this foolishness bound up in the heart of a child. And it says the rod of correction will drive a far from it. Now, we'll get into a teaching on spanking and all that sort of thing at a later time. But what I want to help you understand is that when you're trying to get rid of that foolishness, immediacy of consequences matters. All right, that I have just gotten through doing something wrong and I'm immediately facing the consequence. That idea of being quick or timely is very, very important. All right. Now, sure. Remember, quick, sure, and appropriate. So sure. Let's talk about sure. How likely is it that I'm going to suffer the consequences for what I did? We talked about behavior modification in another video, and how all behavior is motivated. You'd be surprised how little it takes to motivate somebody who wants something to keep doing it. so I steal a cookie 10 times and I get caught and dealt with one time. Man, I'm taking cookies. Okay, I mean, if the only way I'm learning that that's wrong and to stop doing it is that 1 in 10 times that I get caught, 10 cookies for one time being put in the corner, I'm still doing it. If the only way I'm learning it is through what you're doing with me. I don't know. You may find that there are some behaviors with your kids that you pretty much got to be really watchful. Again, the minute rule we talked about, where you got to really be on top of things, catching it pretty much all the time, or they're not learning either, because some things, man, to get away with 1 out of 10 might seem worth it to a kid, and they might keep doing this thing to them. But sure, are you being consistent? Because if you're not being consistent, you'll find yourself having to be harsh, overbearing and really, really mean in your discipline. You don't want to end up there. All right, so this thing of consistency and making sure that it's sure. No, I don't forget that you weren't going to get dessert tonight because you snuck a cookie. Whatever you got to do. Maybe you got a big family, you need a bookkeeping system on this. I don't care. Find a way of making sure that you aren't getting forgetful. And, frankly, soft-heartedness on this issue can get you in trouble too. Well, okay, that was a while ago, and it's all right now. If you are disciplining based on how you feel, rather than based on what's right, you're going to find yourself becoming inconsistent. And again, the discipline becomes not sure. Do the parents interfere with each other on this stuff? If you interfere with each other, it should be privately. The children should not be witnesses to you wrangling over or negotiating whether or not they're actually going to be punished for the thing that they did. All right, it needs to be sure. They need to believe that if you say it, it's going to happen, it's going to happen. All right, I've seen people in the court system where they're constantly told, "Man, one more time and you're going to jail, one more time and this is going to happen." And time after time after time, it never happened. And then finally, so they commit some serious crime, and they're surprised that the consequences are actually coming their way. That's not a good place for your children to be. And so what about appropriate? It's much more effective with anybody, and children are no exception on this, if the discipline that I'm using with my child, the consequences, the thing that comes in sequence after, the thing that happens because I did that, if it somehow has a connection to what I did. I went in the street with my bike and I wasn't supposed to, I can't ride my bike for a day. I took a cookie, I don't get dessert. If you can see this whole idea of appropriateness, because it connects the two things together. I understand that in the thing that I disobeyed, I then am suffering. Israel would be disobedient, and God would take away some protection or some blessing that was somehow connected, with the thing that they've done wrong. It helps to anchor home the importance of the message that you're trying to give, because again, back to a previous teaching. The purpose of all of this is to restore the child, not to break them, not to bust them down, not to destroy them. It's, again, anger and discipline. We talked about this thing, if they shouldn't fear like you're going to destroy them. To be appropriate in the kind of things that we're using to get our point across in the discipline of our children. With that, hey, it's so great to get together like this, isn't it? So we'll see you again on the 10-Minute Parent.